Hello and welcome to another edition of the Anglo-Italian podcast for this Euro 2024 preview, and we'll be covering Romania today. And I'm delighted to say we'll be joined by Fillip from Romanian Football. So, Fillip, nice having you. More importantly, are you looking forward to the Euros?
Thanks, Adam, for hosting. And I'm sort of in the middle. I'm looking forward to the Euros because it's been 8 years, 8 long years. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I feel like we could do things better. But I feel like we shoot ourselves in the foot a lot. Uh, but yeah, more on that later. I guess to say I'm somewhat excited because of our group as well. But
Yes.
Belgium's going to be a very difficult game, and I'm not sure how we're going to deal with that. So yeah.
Well, we'll certainly dive into that. But let's kind of get a flavour for Romania as well, because I think for a certain generation of football fan, they'll kind of reminisce about Georgi Hagi, for example, and those kind of Euro 90s, as well as the kind of World Cup 94 exploits of the Romanian team as well. But yeah, I mean, I suppose Romania has gone through a bit of transition since those days, really, I suppose. And, you know, those kind of talismanic players that you used to have. I mean, the last that I can kind of reminisce about is Adrian Mutu, who obviously had a phenomenal record for the Romanian national team as well. But from your point of view, how is the feeling in Romania? Do they kind of see this group of players in maybe a similar light to maybe those of a latter year?
I don't think people would compare it to that generation, but at the
Mm,
same time, a lot of people are optimistic because it's been 8 years, as I said, and we've had some good results. Although the group was rather weak, but we've had some good results. So there's reason for optimism, but there's also reason for being cautious and still critical, I would say,
hmm
because one of the issues, if I can get into it, is
hmm
Eddie Iordanescu, the son of the legendary Angel Iordanescu, who was the
Yep.
coach in '94, in the '90s, and
hmm
basically he's made some strange selections. For example,
hmm
he's left out Alex Pashkanu, who was used to play for Leicester City's under 23s and then ended up in
hmm
Spain, who was a solid right back option when we don't have that many great options at right back. And for some
hmm
reason, he's been ignored for years now. The other thing is Virgil Giza, who plays in Poland. He's a very strong in the air, very solid physically, and again, no call up. Well, actually, sorry,
hmm
he's had one cap in the last 2 years, but he's almost never called.
hmm
So these are some strange omissions that I don't really quite understand. And anyway, so there's that, and there's also the fact that Morutsan, one of our great playmakers, who's been excellent in Turkey and for
hmm
Pisa last season, uh, he's been injured for I think until the end of the year because of an Achilles tendon rupture. So that's an unfortunate
Yeah.
loss. But for these reasons, I'm a bit skeptical. But the other side of it is that we've also had a great record defensively that we haven't had in a while. And part of that is down to a CB partnership between
hmm
Radu Dragushin, which you might know
hmm
for
Yeah.
Tottenham now. Very exciting prospect, one of the few bright hopes for the future, I would say, for Romania.
hmm
And then alongside Andrei Burka, who missed out against Bulgaria because of a slight injury, so he's still recovering. Uh,
hmm
but yeah, those two make a pretty decent partnership, and yeah, so that's one positive I would say.
Definitely. And let's kind of dig into the man that you did mention at the very beginning. So, Edvard Urdanescu, who obviously, as you mentioned, he's the son of the famous trainer from the 90s as well. And yeah, he's not had a bad record for this Romanian national squad, given, I suppose, the context of you've had a lot of managers in the past that probably had a lot more hype or expectation, for example. Georgie Hagi himself being one of them as well. And yeah, it didn't really pan out too well for him, unfortunately. But if we talk about Edward Udanescu, how would you describe him to those that haven't kind of seen him or his football? What would we expect from him, and what's his kind of playing philosophy?
I would say he likes players that are physically active, so like they
Hmm.
have a good physique and are willing to make efforts in the team. Also, team unity is very important to team spirit. So that aspect of his coaching style, I do appreciate. Uh, he's decent tactically,
Hmm.
although he's made some strange decisions, as I said in the past. But I think compared to a lot of other coaches, apart from maybe Mirel Radoy, who had a very short tenure and had us playing great attacking football, I think he's been the closest to actually uh, making us play some sort of football in the final third,
Hmm.
which we normally struggle with. We normally rely on, in the past, on long balls to the lone striker and just horrible decisions in the final third. But we've sort
Yeah.
of improved in that sense.
No, that's good
Yeah,
to hear.
yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to allude also a little bit towards his kind of managerial experience as well, because looking back at his kind of previous clubs that he's been part of, I mean, there's been one exploit back in Bulgaria, but majority of his time has been spent in Romania. How has he kind of like, I suppose, felt amongst the Romanian fan base? Is there kind of a deep feeling that he's the man that may help this Romanian national team?
A lot of people do support him, but a lot of people
Mhm.
also are against him. But that's typical, though. That's very
Yeah,
typical of Romanian
yeah.
fans, I would say. A lot of pessimism because of recent years, but he does have some supporters now, I would say, after the qualification. Uh, but yeah, still a lot of pessimism as well. So it's mixed, I would say, mixed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. Well, let us move on to, I suppose, the team itself. Now, you did mention a few players already, Dragusin being, I suppose, one of the talismanic players within the squad that most people will know. Through ourselves on the podcast, we know him from his exploits with Juventus, for example, and Genoa prior to his move to Spurs. So we know about his credentials. And there's a few players in Italy, for example, that are playing for the Romanian national squad. I'm referring to the likes of Razvan Marin, who currently plays for Empoli. He had an inconsistent year this season. However, he's still on his day quite dangerous, I would say. You know, he's got a shot from distance that he's one of those kind of really, I suppose, players that can turn a moment. And that's the thing that I'm really excited about him. But obviously, Dennis Mann as well, someone that I've been keeping an eye on because of his exploits with Parma. Parma being promoted this season to Serie A, and he's a player that I'll be interested to get your opinions on as well. Because yeah, he seems like he's a player that can play multiple different positions. He's played for Parma anyway, and then Yanis Hadji, obviously the son of the famous Georgi Hadji as well, who's had a bit of a mixture in terms of performances over the last few years. Obviously, well known for his time at Rangers, for example. But again, there seems to be something raw about him that, on his day, he could be very pivotal for this Romanian squad. How would you reflect on those? And are there any other players that maybe fans that don't know about Romanian football, maybe they should keep an eye out on?
Sure, sure. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Dragushin is the big young gun, the star at the
Yeah.
back. And I love him because his mentality is just elite. Like, he works so hard, and I just love his mentality, and also the fact that he's just such a big guy. He's great in the air. Uh, he's improved a lot defensively as well. But it's not been easy for him at the start at Tottenham. But I think he showed a lot of promise when he played against City, when he was just ushered into the starting lineup
Mm,
in that game, and he saved a clear goal as well. But even at Genoa, we saw how important he was to them, and
yeah.
also the goal. Even some of the goals he scored, like the goal against Hayes Verona, was like a striker's goal, excellent goal. And so yeah, I'm really excited about him, having him in the team. The problem is I'm not sure how he communicates with Nitsa, who looks like he might be the keeper at the Euros, because Moldovan previously was the starting goalkeeper
Mhm.
for quite a while. But since he moved to Atletico Madrid, he
Mm,
hasn't had any chance to actually play. So it looks like
yeah.
Nitsa is going to be the keeper. And against Bulgaria yesterday, that was just a disaster. Like they didn't communicate very well, and
Mm-hmm.
that performance was very underwhelming for what I was expecting. But hopefully the next one will be better. But yeah, back to players. Sorry, back to
That's
players.
okay. No worries.
Yeah, I would say Dennis Mann is the closest winger slash forward that we've had uh, of a similar caliber and style to Mutu,
Mm-hmm.
since Mutu, of course.
Yeah.
So he's exciting on his day. He's really a dynamic winger,
Mm.
explosive, very quick, good decisions, great finishing. So he's become, I
Mm.
think, more consistent in the past season, and I hope he's going to have a great uh, year in Serie A next season as well.
Mm. No,
Um,
definitely.
yeah,
What was your thoughts on Yanis Hadji? Because obviously his drop off since the Rangers spell, it's
he's
been
very
a fascinating one, hasn't it?
he's a weird player because he's very inconsistent. He's capable
Mm.
of great things, great moments, as we saw.
Yeah.
The goal against Germany, the goals against Macedonia, Colombia, even. He's capable of coming up big in moments,
Mm.
but and even in La Liga, he's had moments against Atletico Madrid and other teams. But I don't know what it is with him. He's just some games he disappears, other games he's wide awake, and he's influencing the game with his creativity. He can unlock tight
Mm-hmm.
defenses when he really wants to. He's also been a bit injury prone. Well, more so at Rangers, where he was out for
Yeah.
quite a while, a year, I think. Yeah,
Mm.
but he's still, I would say, a wild card because
Yeah.
he could do maybe nothing, or he could be a hero. That's the kind of
Yeah.
player I see him as. Yeah.
Fascinating. And just out of your kind of point of view, do you think there's areas where Romania are going to struggle in terms of the personnel that they've got for this upcoming Euros?
Yeah, definitely. The question is not struggle; it's where, where, right? So where,
Yeah.
but definitely left back has been an issue for us for years now. We don't have
Uh-huh.
many good left back options, although there is a young player, Andrei Borza, at Rapid, that's interesting for the future, but
Hmm.
still hasn't been selected. So, anyways, Niku Shorbanku, he's very weak defensively, but he's decent going forward. He can give a good
Hmm.
cross. He's even scored a few decent goals for Romania, but at the back, even in the Romanian league, he's been very flimsy, very unreliable. So that's one side that we're going to struggle with against Ukraine, I think, with who is it? Konoplyanka, or I forget. One of the right wingers
Uh-huh.
there might cause
Yeah.
us problems on the left flank. The other thing is, sorry, also
Yeah.
Pushkash, who you might know
Yes.
from Italy as well.
Yes, I do know him from Reading as well. Yes. So yeah, he's had
Yeah,
his spells, hasn't he?
he's he's another weird player because he's had moments where it's like he's looked promising, and then other moments where he'll go for so long without even scoring, and it's like very frustrating. But for Romania,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. He's been quite unreliable, although he did score an important goal at the against Israel uh,
Yeah.
with a header. I would say his best attribute is his heading, but again, I'm not a very reliable player, and I feel like he needs a second striker to play off of to
Yeah.
do his best. Uh, so yeah, that's another issue. So left back and striker, we have some issues.
Mm.
Although Deniz Dragush on loan from Standard in Turkey this season,
Hmm.
uh, he's been very good. He scored, I think, 16 goals in the Turkish league this season. He's very dynamic, very good, excellent dribbler, very quick,
Hmm.
good finisher. So I really hope he's going to be starting at the Euros because I think he's one of the few players we have that can create something out of nothing. So that gives me hope. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed. It seems like you've got kind of a dynamic kind of group of players, certainly players that on the day they can certainly turn it on. So I suppose this may mean that we have to kind of drag it out of you and kind of get a prediction. But I suppose, as you alluded to at the very beginning, you've
Yeah.
got the likes of Belgium, which is going to be a tough opposition to play against, given the caliber of players that they've got in their squad. But then I look at your group, obviously, as you mentioned, Slovakia and Ukraine. this could be open games for yourself. You know, there could be opportunities to get results, right? And I think sometimes we forget that there is the opportunity for the best place third team as well in this tournament as well. So the best four that finish third get to qualify to the knockout rounds as well. So this is a huge opportunity. I mean, before kind of making that assumption, do you think Romania have a chance of maybe being in the top two?
I think I'll have to judge again after the first match, but it's like I said, it's difficult to say because like some players are very, as I said, inconsistent, and also the coaching selections are not always clear. There's always one or two selections that I don't agree with, so that part is frustrating. But I don't know if we show the same unified front as we did in qualifiers, we might have a chance. We might have a chance because, like you said, Ukraine is not impossible. They're better on paper, but they're not impossible. They had problems with Bosnia as well. So you never know, right? And then Slovakia, I would say, is quite similar to us. So we definitely have a chance against them. But Belgium, if we can get a point against Belgium, that could be a huge difference for us.
Yeah, I think it's the result against them. That's going to be massive, isn't it? I feel like that could be the pivotal point for each of these group or games, or in particular for this group stage. So, but yeah, where do you kind of see yourself? Do you think if you progress out of this group, that is the desirable kind of position that you'd like to find Romania in?
Yeah, to be honest, at this stage, I'll just be happy with just getting out of the group. Anything more is a bonus, but yeah, just getting out of the group would be great, considering like I said, we were missing Morutan, one of our best playmakers. We've got a couple players that were left out of the squad by Eddie that I don't understand why they were. So that's another one. And then inconsistent players, right? So for those reasons, I'm iffy. But on our day, we could cause a surprise. So that's what I'm hoping for. Second or third place, I'm gonna say.
Well, I'm loving the optimism. I'm looking forward to actually watching this Romania squad, that's for sure, because like I say, we know a few of those players from the Serie A appearances anyway, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they develop. But it's beautiful having you on this particular preview. And before we kind of leave, let's make sure we kind of plug your area as well. So, Fillip, where can people find you and, more importantly, your work?
Sure, thanks. So if you go on Twitter or X nowadays, you can search me up, ROFTBL, or Romanian Football. That's my Twitter handle. So you can find me on there posting updates on Romanian football. I've slowed down a bit recently, but I'm trying to get back into it, be a bit more active. So yeah.
I'm sure as this tournament goes on, there'll be a lot more updates coming from you, that's for sure. And I cannot wait. And hopefully, maybe, Fillip, we'll have you back on to talk about your progress out of the group stages. So fingers crossed for you. But many thanks for having you to talk us through Romania, and best of luck.
Yeah. That's me praying for good.
Thanks very much, Fillip.
All right. Thanks a lot, Adam.